Hello. We are going to go over remote training session 1, intro to framework and ECM, and switching from SCS to framework. Why is that happening? So a little bit of background about the systems itself and the reason why we're transitioning. So the first reason is SCS support is no longer. We don't have support for SCS anymore, and our contract is ending at the end of the year. So we have no more upgrade availabilities, and if things need to be fixed, it takes a lot for us to open up a ticket and try to get that done. So this is why we're transitioning from SCS to framework. And then our second slide is just going to show you the current application. So the current application arrangement is the order will come into DocuTrack, and I know some pharmacies use DocuTrack, some don't. Some of them get the prescription printed and brought to the IV department or faxed over to a different fax machine. And then you'd go into SCS, see if your patient's there. If they're not, you're going to go to the 400 and then verify that the patient's in the 400, and you would pull your patient into SCS from the 400. So we all know that there are a couple of requirements in order for that to happen successfully. Patient has to be active, they have to have active insurance, and they have to have a date of birth. Those are the 3 requirements. It's going to change a little bit with framework, but today those are the 3 things that we need. That's not going to change. Also today, when we fill an order in SCS, the charges adjudicate or go back into the 400 for billing. So we have to go into the 400 and we have to verify that the charges are there, first of all. Secondly, based on whether they're being billed to facility, they might be going up to RxExact. This is where plan admin is sending you instruction sheets. So if you have a high cost override or a refill too soon override to your facility Med-A managed accounts, your PMCs, your PDMs, those rejections come back into the 400, and then you have to do your prior authorization process in order to get that approved. The second piece would be billing insurance. So if you have commercial, Medicare Part D, Medicaid, again, the charges get filled, the order gets filled in SCS, gets pushed over to point of sale in the 400. Now you're working your denials there, or they're going to the clinical hub and they're getting clinical hub is working on your prior authorization. That's what happens today. So what's going to happen when we go to framework, your order is still going to come in to DocuTrack. And in DocuTrack, we are going to have a folder. It's just merely going to be called IV. Some pharmacies have IV folders. It says IV new order, IV pharmacist, something like that. So those old folders will actually go away, and you'll only see this new one that just says IV. You'll move your document into that folder in DocuTrack, and then it'll get pushed automatically to Framework ECM. So ECM is our electronic content manager, and it's a paperless system just like DocuTrack. It's got a little bit more bells and whistles, and but it works very similar to DocuTrack. As soon as the order gets pushed in, you're going to go to framework, just like you do with SCS today. Is my patient there? If they're not, you're going to go to the 400 and you're going to verify that your patient's in the 400. So today, patient has to be active. They have to have active insurance. They have to have a date of birth. The 4th requirement for framework is a station. And we will show you that tomorrow's session, looking at the 400 and pushing a patient over. But there's going to be a way to actually just use an option 3 to push your patient from LTC 400 to framework. They have to have a valid station. And what I mean by that is they can't have HSTAT. So your house accounts, your house stock accounts all have HSTAT. We will be manually putting those into framework for you. But if it's a specific patient, there should be an actual station. And so you would just have to verify in the 400 that there's an actual station, and then you'll do the option 3, you'll push your patient over into framework. So what's going to happen, because we're pushing our patient into framework and we're going to fill our orders in framework, they are not going to come back and adjudicate, which means we are eliminating RX Exact now for in the 400, and we're also eliminating processing our third-party claims in the 400 as well. Everything's going to be billed in framework. So what that means is if you have a high cost for a facility, you're billing your PMC, your PDMs, Med-A, managed VA, you're going to do that high cost override right in order entry for that actual prescription. If you're billing third party, so your Medicare Part Ds, your Medicaids, you're going to adjudicate right in order entry on that prescription, and you're going to know right away if it approves or denies. So a little difference is if your claim denies, you won't get labels. If your claim's denied in SCS, you'll still get labels because the adjudication is in a different platform. So that piece will change. Those orders will have to be adjudicated and approved before you get your labels, just like the 400. So if you fill an order in the 400 and the 400 denies, you don't get a label. So the process is going to be the same there. You then, we are still going to use Clinical Hub. So if it is a prior auth needed, you're going to code it to the Clinical Hub, and you'll be able to change it to facility if the facility approves, and be able to print your labels. But Clinical Hub will still be involved, and they'll still be working out prior authorizations for us. And then we have a new billing piece, billing control module, and that is where our billing is going to go. And so our 400, our framework billing will all tie together and still be on the same statement. And I know that was a lot, but it's faster than what you think. So then you've got your framework key tables. So we're in order entry. When you have to do order entry in the 400, you have to open a batch. Same thing is going to happen in framework. Difference is in the 400, your batch is user specific, where framework is actually facility specific. And we'll get more into that when we start doing the adjudication training, but you'll hear me say batches, and just know that your batches are essentially a bucket, if you will, where all of your orders are going to go in for the day for that specific facility. You have another facility, they're going to have their own batch with that facility's patients, and that's going to be that facility's batch. You'll have a patient order list. In that patient order list, you're going to see the 400 orders, and in the 400, you'll be able to see framework orders. So now we've got clean clinical checks. No supplies, just actual orders. And the label name, the SIG will actually say from LTC 400. So you'll be able to identify what is framework and what is the 400. You'll be able to rebill claims right in framework. So again, you don't have to go to the 400 to do that because no billing is being pushed to the 400. Everything's staying in framework. The patient's profile is going to get updated from the 400. So you won't have to open up a ticket anymore if the name changes. If you change the name in the 400, it'll push that change into framework. You fill a new drug in the 400, it's going to push that drug into framework. We fill a drug, it's going to push it into the 400. The insurance changes in the 400, it's going to push that into framework. So it's pretty great. The system is going to stay tied together. So we have better clinical checks, and our insurance and our patient profiles all stay the same, and they stay linked. And you won't have to open up tickets to do changes like you do today for SCS. Another piece that I love. So now I'm going to go down to screen 4, workflow steps. So this workflow step actually encompasses premixes. So you want NDC. Maybe your patient's on just hydration or cath care or a premixed antibiotic. You're going to enter your order and order entry. It's going to go through initial review. So unlike SCS, if it's a new order, a pharmacist doesn't have to verify that order in SCS for you. You can just print labels. that's going to stop. And this process, again, is going to work very similar to the 400. You open up a batch, you do order entry, pharmacist has to go in and review that batch and release it before you get labels. Same thing in Framework. You're going to enter your orders, pharmacist is going to go in and do initial review, and then you'll be able to print your labels. With a premix, SCS today forces you to print a compound record because it cannot store lot and expirations. Framework does. So your lot and expiration, when you do your packaging step, similar to the 400, when you do your packaging step, you have your label and you're scanning your label to your product and you're verifying that it's the right product based on your order. At that step, you're going to be entering the lot number and the expiration date, and it's going to be saved in order entry for that prescription. So now if we get recalls, we're able to run a report by lot and be able to know who we actually dispense that medication for. After it's gone through initial review, you've printed your labels, you've gone through packaging, now it's going to PV2, final review, and pharmacist again is going to verify that the package matches the product. They're going to look at the order, and then it's going to go to toting. So that's a premix. Our last slide is compound. So I'm either mixing you've got more than one NDC, or I'm snapping Minibag Plus Advantage product. What this adds is now your compound record. So you need PV 1.5. You're going to enter your order. It's going to go to initial review. You're going to print your labels. You're going to pull your products off the shelf. You're going to package. After you package, you're going to need to print a compound report. And that compound report is going to have the lot number and expiration date that you've typed in there when you did your packaging. So now everything is going to be filled in. There's no manual writing in lot and expiration anymore. The system will do that for you. And when you print your compound record, you'll take that, you'll take your products and your labels, and now you've got your PV 1.5. So your pharmacist is verifying everything before you go in and you mix the medication. You'll come out, you'll give everything to final check, final review for your pharmacist to verify everything that got compounded. They're going to look at your compound expiration. On your compounding sheet, your lot number, your expiration date, verify all of those match, and verify your order in ECM. So again, similar to the process in the 400, your final review, RPH 2 and 3, the order will pull up in DocuTrack. Same thing's going to happen in ECM, and then toting. So that is our workflow step. And I know it was a lot, but that is what the process is going to look like. So the next thing I'm going to do is ask everyone to make sure that they know that they are able to log in. So I'm going to my Citrix receiver, my same button that I use to get to my SCS or my DocuTrack. So you can see I've got SCS and DocuTrack here. So I've clicked on my little circle for my Citrix, and depending on where you are, what pharmacy you're in, your implementer will let you know if you're going to be in Framework IV East or Southeast, if you're in Mountain Time Zone or Central Time Zone, Pacific. So based on where you are is the icon that you will see when you sign in. Now, when you get access, sometimes you have to come up here to your name and you have to hit refresh app. When you click on that, if your icon isn't here yet, when you click on that, sometimes it'll refresh it and then pop up your icon. So always try to do that first before you email us and say, I don't have access. If you've done that and you still don't have an icon, then you definitely want to email your implementer or email whoever sent you the videos to watch those videos and let them know that you still don't have access. So I'm going to click on IV East, and when we do remote training or when we get on site and we start training, you're actually going to see this folder as well. So it'll be IV Framework IV East. If you could definitely make sure that you click on that one and make sure you can get in there. You'll see test environment. You might just see these icons actually. You want Framework ECM. Again, it's our paperless system. It's a little folder. Some people like to call it a swimming pool. It does kind of look like one. And then your Framework LTC. So this is your dispensing system. And I like to think of these little dots as like my bubble pack. So this is my dispensing system. This is my paperless system. You are able to save these to favorites. So if you have a lot of icons, if you click details, you can add it to favorite, come up here, and now just click here and you'll always see your favorites. So I'm going to double click my ECM first. You're going to want to hurry up and double click on this one too, but I do suggest waiting till you get this box that pops up so you're not clicking, 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 and then you've got more than one session open. So I'm just waiting for a minute on this. And then I'm going to double click on my LTC framework. So here's my ECM popping up. When you first log in to your live environment, and your implementer will be there for you on Go Live. So we're there for the week of remote, and then we're also there for the week of Go Live. So we don't just train and leave. We might go home for the weekend, but we'll be there for training. And then that following Monday, we will be there for that whole week, and that first weekend, if you're open on the weekends, your first weekend of Go Live, you will have support there as well. So when you first log in to ECM, you'll want to look up here and make sure that it has your pharmacy name. If it doesn't, you can go right here to change pharmacy and then choose your pharmacy. You'll be able to see, if you're in East, for instance, you'll be able to see all of the pharmacies that are in there. So you want to just choose yours and hit select. And then every time you log in, it will log you into your pharmacy. But you can just double check, look up there again, and make sure it didn't flip you to somewhere else. So the last thing is logging into Framework. This box is going to pop up just like it does for SCS. All you have to hit is OK. You do not have to put in a user ID or password. So I'm just going to hit OK here. It takes a minute. If you look at the bottom too, if you do kind of get click happy, you'll see Framework with 2 sessions. And if there is no box that pops up, and I'll show you what that means in a minute, you will know just to kind of look down there. So here is a box, and when you log into the training site, all our facilities IDs are 22. When you log in for the first time, this box might be blank. You have a drop down here. It says search by name or ID. Pick either one of them, and then all of the facilities should pop up for you. But you've got to pick something here to make them pop up. Sometimes it's just shows blank. And when you first log in, you have to pick a facility. Doesn't matter which one you pick, but if you just click on a facility, you can double click it, you could just hit OK afterwards, and it will then pop up. So again, if everyone could make sure when we're done with this call, if you could make sure that you can log in. Again, refresh your app and then go in and try to log in, and don't just see the box and say, yeah, it's okay. You definitely want to make sure that you can get into the system. And so I'm going to pause for a minute, and hopefully I didn't go too fast if you were taking notes, and we're going to transition to Fernita, and she's going to show you some tricks with ECM and go through a little bit of framework with you.
All right. Thank you, Betty. Give me one moment. All right. Thank you, Betty, for the framework intro. Like she mentioned before, I will be going over just a high-level overview of what framework looks like and how ECM looks like, just to show you some of the options that you have available there. So first, we'll start out with framework. If you look at the very top here on this gray ribbon, you'll notice that you would see your framework, your server. So that will be in case maybe if you needed to call IT for any help or anything, and they ask you, hey, what server are you in? You'll be able to let them know at the top. It will also let you know what facility you are in at the top. So again, Framework is very facility driven. So it will let you know what facility you're in at the top, followed by an ID. So since we are in our testing environment, all of our facilities start with 22. So that is our pharmacy's prefix. Every pharmacy will actually be assigned a prefix within that server. So no one within that server will have the same pharmacy prefix. So in our case, this one is 22. And then it's going to be followed by a letter. So that letter will let you know what type of facility it is. So if it was an S, it would be a skilled facility. If you happen to have any assisted living, you would have an A. So if you have any that actually receive IVs, then we would add those in for you. And then if you have any VITAS, we would add an H for your hospice. So you would see the 22 followed by a letter. And then the last 3 digits would actually be the facility ID that matches in the 400. So whatever facility ID that you were in the 400, we did create those last 3 digits to match it, so that you can kind of compare, and you can maybe easily look for a facility that you already know the IDs for, if you're very familiar with your facility. So that's kind of something we wanted to keep the same. All right. So I do want to look at this ribbon here. If you notice, I have quite a few icons on here. So this is going to be your main ribbon, your main tab on the ribbon. When the lead implementer is on site next week, or they will download a ribbon to your user profile, and it may look very similar to this. So it depends on the role. So if you are a technician, you may not see the final review on your ribbon. But if you are a pharmacist, you may see that final review step. Again, this is very customizable by simply right-clicking. You can hit Customize Ribbon, and then you can add or take away certain things once you get a lot more familiar with things that you would like on your main tab. Then you can customize that ribbon. So we just wanted to point it out, but you will get one that's similar to this downloaded to your user profile. You do have your change facility. So remember how when Betty first logged into Framework, you have to pick a facility. You just have to pick any one just to open up the application. So if you needed to change facility, you can simply come here to your change facility, and it brings that select facility box up. If you know the name of it, you can select it. You can also type in, if you knew the facility ID, maybe you know your prefix, right, for your pharmacy, so you can say 22. You know it's a skilled facility. You can do an S. If you already know your 400 ID, then you would simply put that in. So you can simply search, and it'll go straight to that facility here. You can just say OK. You can toggle, as Betty mentioned, by the name. It will go in order that way, or if you just prefer it going in order by the ID. So you can just click on a facility name and say OK, and it does change it at the top. You have your Find Patient. So I kind of like to call this ribbon, your favorites area, your favorites tab, because all of the things that you will likely use day to day, you can add here. So you do have your Find Patient. This is how you will actually search for your patients when you're getting ready to type your orders. So I just wanted to show you here. During session 2, we will go over the Find Patient in their profile. So we'll show you a little bit more about that tomorrow on the next session. You do have your ScanRx. This is how you can do multiple refills. We'll show you how you would actually perform that in session 3, followed by just the workflow steps. I have them in order here. So prescription labels, packaging, final review, toting. You want to get your manifest out and posting. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that lightly. On your maintenance tab, the only things that you would possibly use on here is your pharmacy formulary. This is one of them. So you will now be able to add your own drugs, your own NDCs, into Framework. So you will add that, and you will be able to add your pricing as well. So you will get some hands-on training, or they will show you how you can actually do that. You will be adding your own templates or creating your own templates. So within Framework, we have some XX templates, basically, so you can copy from those. So we wanted to add some, already in the system for you for your pharmacy, and you can copy from those templates and make it your own for your pharmacy. So you will be adding those. Define physicians. If you needed to add a new doctor, you can add a new doctor in Framework. So this is the button that you would choose for that. Under your utilities, you would possibly use your DDI checker. So I really like this feature that's already in Framework. So you don't have to go and try to log into Lexicomp or any other thing if you wanted to look for interactions. So you can simply click on the drug-to-drug interaction checker, and you can input them all. So we'll also show you how to do that later on in the week. You have your find patient again as well. And then you also have your calculate drug quote. So I also like this one as well. So you can get that quote right then and there. If a nurse or the facility is calling, or they may be sent an email, you can actually get that quote as long as you're in the correct facility. Because again, Framework is facility driven. In the background, we've added the contract information and the pricing. So as long as you're in the correct facility that's calling for the quote, you will give the correct quote. So you can actually do that right here within Framework. So I just wanted to kind of touch on some of that. I want to talk about, we do have a IV manual that we are actually giving out. So when your lead is on site with you all next week, they will actually either give it to you next week or probably the go live week, but definitely before they depart from your pharmacy. You'll get a manual that, because everything is based on how we're doing things with just IVs, so it's a slightly different. But however, Framework does have a help function here. If you were to simply hit your F1, you will get a box, and you can browse through here if you'd like, and just if you were trying to look for any general information that Framework has. So they do have this option here. If you happen to be in a screen and you wanted more information about it, you can simply hit F1, and it actually will open it up to that page. I have my Find Patient window. This is what I wanted more information about. So I kind of like that, but again, we do have our own IV manual, so things may be different for how we're actually processing our IV medications and supplies. All right. So I think that's all that I would like to go over with on the Framework side at this time. I'm going to hop over into ECM so we can kind of go over, how your documents and everything will look when they come over. Great, so here is our test environment for our ECM. Now, in order for all your orders to come over, we have added that IV folder in DocuTrack. So like Betty had mentioned, instead of maybe printing out or handing it to the IV tech, the order would just be moved to that IV folder in DocuTrack, and then it will move over into ECM. So let's take a look around at the top. So again, you have a ribbon. And as she mentioned, you have your pharmacy above. So you'll see your name. If you don't, go to Change Pharmacy so that you can select the correct pharmacy. So I'll just go through some of the things that you will likely use. You do have a move function here. So if maybe you got a duplicate, maybe 2 orders, were put in that IV folder and it was the exact same thing. So, and they came into ECM. So you can simply, if you were to click on an item, you can say move, and you can move it to maybe the trash. It's a complete duplicate and you're certain of it. You don't want to move anything to a folder and you didn't realize it because you may lose track of where that document is. But I just want to let you know that that's what it's for. You do have a copy feature. However, this actually creates an exact replica, but not in the way you would think. If you change anything on a document, after you have made a copy, if I made a copy of this document and it changed and you change anything on that document, it will automatically put it on the other one, whether you have that document open or not. So if you had received another order, or if you needed to print out or have another copy of that document in ECM, you want to print that out and scan it back in to ECM. We have configured your printer so they would be able to scan into ECM directly. So you would want to scan that in, so then you'll have two separate documents with two document IDs. So do not use the copy feature. It doesn't give you a separate document. It just, everything you replicate, everything you do on one, it replicates on the other. So just wanted to stress that. You do have clip, unclip, and sort clip, just like in DocuTrack. You have staple. Here it's called clipping and unclipping. So you have that functionality here. You do have up here audit log. It's a view log. So if I were to click this, and I'm just in this document here, if I were to click, it's going to let you know what happened with this document, where has it been, who has touched it, who has done anything with that document. So it's just a neat little feature here. So I'm just scrolling down, and you can see that the date and the time, what actually happened, the action, the user, what was going on, the type, the document was clipped, things like that. So if you were on that document longer than 3 seconds, it's going to log it. All right, you have, you can send or push your documents out if you needed to email or fax it, you can do that as well. You can print your documents from here as well. All right, so let's just take a look over here on the left side. So this is where your folders are. You have your IB folder. This is where all of your new orders will come in. It will look very similar to this. This could be a typical day on how your queue may look. So this is how your orders will come through, and then it shows you at what stage or step of the workflow in that it is in. A lot of these are color coded to kind of help you figure out where this is at. You have different colors here, so we'll kind of talk about that in just a moment. You do have your IB chart. So this is going to be after you've typed your order, you've done all the appropriate workflow on it, and it will be waiting here for the next refill. So if you click here, you'll notice that it's saying evaluate refill. So this is just going to be like a holding area for things that are due to be refilled again, for things that have continuous therapy. We do have some control folders for you if you do control. Prior auth folder, your e-kits. So you get your e-kit sheets back from the facility. You can just scan those directly into ECM, and you can place them here. That way you can work on these at a later time if you're a little tied up, and you can work on your e-kits so you can build them. You have a billing folder. You have your packing slips, so when that driver brings that packing slip back, you can scan them into ECM. So we recommend, scanning things in one at a time just to kind of get used to it, but you can scan those packing slips in, and then they will actually be filed here. And you can always search for those. They'll always be there, so you need, in case something happened and you need to know who signed for a prescription, something like that. You have your daily completed orders and things that are archived. You do have some folders with binoculars. It's basically going to take you directly to that. So if I had anything due today, for example, if I were to click here, it will have just those orders that are for things that are due today. All right. So I'm just going to go over this grid area here as well. So when talking about this grid, you can sort these and you can move these left to right. So like if I wanted a different view, I can say I want this message to maybe be after this. I want to look at my patient name once it's associated to the document. I want to move it here. So you can move those left to right. You do have other options of viewing things if you scroll all the way. You have even a SIG. If you wanted to drag that all the way over there so it's right in front of you, you can do that as well. You can come here and you can sort up or down, maybe by arrival. You want to see when your documents have come in. You can sort by arrival. if you wanted to actually look at for anything like specific, you wanted to say, okay, where is everything that is an initial review? You can simply hit this little key button here, and then just scroll or just look through and you see initial review. If you click that, it's just going to only show you things that are in initial review. To get out of it, if you look at the bottom, it has this yellow. Just simply click the X, clear filter, and everything comes back. So just some ways that you can sort and kind of filter so you're not seeing everything. If you guys are a busy pharmacy, it kind of helps you focus on whatever task you're trying to complete at that time. All right, so let's kind of look at some of these columns here. So of course you have your patient. So once something is associated, once the patient or the order is associated to a document, you'll now see that fill in. You have your status. This is going to let you know at what step or stage in the workflow it's at, basically. So your status is, in this case, this one is new. So anything that is coming in from DocuTrack into ECM, it will have a status of new. And it will have no color. It will just be white. And then again, you know, awaiting labs, we have areas where you can actually enter in a due date for labs, and I'll show you that. Awaiting compound worksheet for things that you need to compound or snap. We will have a worksheet that will show you on session 4, I believe. Evaluate refill. This lets you know, hey, this is due to be filled today. So the system automatically knows that it will bring this back into your IV folder, letting you know this is due, and then you can work on that refill. So that color will be green. And then of course your initial review. If you look over to your message, there's areas that you can put little messages in. If you were just wanting something about it, it's not printing anything on the actual document, but you have that field where you can put a message. And then lastly, I'll talk about is the type. So this is, again, depending on what type of document you have, is how it will move within the workflow. So if you had a awaiting compound worksheet, it will move differently because once you scan in your compound worksheet, it will actually move this document into another folder. It does things automatically for you on the back end. So, you know, it's important to select the correct types when you're actually typing. So that basically will lead me to the next thing that I want to show you is some forms that we have created. So if you look above, there's fill form. And we thought that these were some that would be the most useful. Just some information that we may have gathered from different pharmacies and thought that these were what most people, what most pharmacies, would use. So you have your drug intake form. We won't go too much into it today, but this is for things when you are typing a premix or hydration. You want to use this drug intake form. It does not require a compound worksheet. You would select IV intake form if you were typing a compound or a SNAP, because this does require a compound worksheet. You have your telephone order. If you receive a verbal, you can use this as to create your order. You can type inside. These forms are editable. You have your equipment pickup form. Maybe you need to send something for a pump. You can do that as well. High cost authorization form, so we have that as well. In session 3, we'll go over how you can troubleshoot through a high cost error or a high cost warning. So we'll show you how to go through that. And just many others that we thought would be helpful that you can utilize in here. So I want to let you know or just show you what a full chart would look like. So I'm just going to click on this TINA training here. This is just an example. So I just double click to get into the document. It looks like you have your intake form first, and you will also have your order after that. So when you have typed your order, you will actually create your intake form. And in session 3, that's the order entry portion, we'll go over how to actually create that. And it's pulling that information from Framework into this document. So when you create that intake form, it pulls in all of this, so it's not any manual work that you have to manually type in everything. but it will pull all of that information in. If you needed to put any kind of notes on here, again, you can edit these forms. Just simply click, and then it will bring it up, and you can edit, and you can add your notes. So these progress notes here, treat this as if you were doing your paper notes or on your marker board or anything like that. So just put any notes that you would put on paper, put them here. So if you were wanting to come in here and type something, just say, like I have, for example, I sent one bag out. You want to put the date and your initials, and then you can say OK. So just, just a little bit on how the intake form works. Also, I do want to point out here line access. We have been coming across some of the contracts that actually are being very particular on what line access. So if you have that information, go ahead and select it. You just hit your little drop down, and it will give you the options to choose from. All right. So I'm just going to say OK. I want to look over here to the left. You have some associations. This is what your associations will look like in ECM. You can hit your little plus button, and you can see, what's associated. You have your prescription number, the patient's name, nursing station, and so forth. So you'll have that information here. And you'll have your Zyno, so it has all of that, and your supplies are attached to it as well. So we'll go over that in session 3 as well. You have here your custom properties. I know you heard me mention due dates. So if you click in your custom properties, so it's important, once you finish typing your order and you create your intake form, if it's a continuous therapy, go ahead and add your next refill date, your next due date. When is the next time that you want to refill this? So you need to come to your custom property. Select the date. So if you know that this dextrose is going to last for, 2 days, so then you can refill it in that time. So you want to set the next due date for the 26th, and then you would simply hit complete. And then it's going to save that order at that due date. And then once it saves it, it's going to be in your IV charts folder. It's going to have a status of evaluate refill. So that's why those are very important to add your dates, because the system will do a lot of work for you in the back end. So as long as you add that date, and when it's sitting in your IV charts folder at maybe just say midnight on the 26th, it's going to move this document automatically for you. You don't have to go hunting for it. As long as you put your correct due date, it's going to move it out of IV chart and put it into your IV folder, and it will be green with a status evaluate refill. So that's how you know something needs to be filled that day. So again, next week you'll get a lot of hands-on training with how these colors and the types and the status, what step you are in the workflow and how a document moves a certain way. All right. So let's just go back into that document. And I just want to talk about the associations again. So it's all happened before. Maybe you actually associated the wrong thing to the wrong document. Maybe you even typed up the wrong script. It just really depends on what happened. However, you can delete out an association in ECM. So if I did not mean to associate this Zyno admin set, I just opened it up with the plus sign, and I'm just right-clicking. You have a couple of different options here. So if I want to delete all document associations, that means everything on this little box is going to go away, and it will unassociate from the document. If I just wanted to get rid of this Zyno, then you can just say I want to delete that association. Okay? So you can take it away if you accidentally associated the wrong thing. All right. So I do want to show you what it would look like when you actually clip and unclip documents, okay? So it's actually fairly easy. You have a couple ways that you can actually do that. So I'm just going to get out of this document here. So you can clip documents from the main screen. Now, I'm going to clip this document here. I'm just going to grab 2 random ones. So if I have this document here, and I want to clip this document. All you need to simply do is hold your control and then select the other document. And you can use clip up here. So once it does that, I'm just going to refresh. That's what that little circle means. And now I have my document clipped. I know that it's clipped because it has a little paper clip here under the clip. And you also have a plus. So you can open that plus sign and then you can see what the other document is. If you wanted to unclip it, you can simply click on that, have it highlighted, and you can unclip. It's going to give you, would you like to unclip all documents? Click to the selected. You can say yes. So now let's just take a look at the other way that you would want to clip your document. So if you were in your document, I'm just going to, again, click into 2 random documents. So if you were in your documents, usually this is how it would appear. You type your order, you have your intake form, and then if this were my actual order, then you would want to clip those. You always want your intake form first. So if you were in this way and you had your tabs open and you know that's the document that you need, the document that you see here will be the first document. So you have to hold your control button and then select the other one. It goes away and then it comes back clipped. So you can scroll down and you can see there's my other document. If you needed to sort a document, you can do that as well. So let's take a look at here. Here's this clip document. If I click one time, you can sort the clip right here. And all you have to do is hold it down and drag it. That's all you have to do just to move the document around. So it just kind of lets you know what order is going to be first, and then you simply save it. And then it'll save it in that order. So if you clip them incorrectly, just use the sort clip option. Let's see, I think that may be all that I have. If there's anything else, Betty, that you would like to share.
So I didn't mention in the beginning, the reason why we have an IV charts folder and we're creating intake forms is because we're going paperless. We are going to be completely paperless, meaning today you probably have a manila folder, some type of paper chart with all of your SCS charge reports and your compound records and a printout of the order. All of that stuff is in a chart right now. That's going to go away. So this is replacing your paper charts, which is why Fernita was saying it's important to make sure that you have your next refill date. So she is right now in paper charts. So think of this as your manila folder for Tina training, which is our patient. And so if you need labs, you can attach your peak and trough form to there and kind of chart all of the lab draws. If you do pharmacist dosing, we have a pharmacy dosing form, which Fernita had showed you the different forms that we have. You can create that form and staple it to this chart. Again, anything that you find pertinent that your pharmacist or you need to look back on, you would want to staple. The compound record. So Fernita mentioned scanning in one thing at a time. The compound record is one of those things that has to be scanned in individually. It seems tedious, but when we show you, it's very fast. You just scan it in, click the button, scan, click the button. Packing slips can all go in together, and then you can just go into the packing slip folder and unclip them, which is just clicking that unclip button. Those can all get scanned in together, but they have to get scanned in. So just making sure that your 400 delivery manifests and your framework packing slips, delivery manifests, different verbiage, same thing, they get separated, just like they should today for SCS. So that piece isn't going to change. That still needs to happen. You still need to scan those in. You're just going to be scanning them into ECM now. And the nice thing is when you scan in your SCS ones to DocuTrack, you're having to manually associate every single one of those delivery manifests. ECM is going to do that work for you. These packing slips have barcodes. The compound records have barcodes. So when you scan them in, they're going to associate to your patient or your prescription. So another nice little piece with ECM.
Definitely.
Lastly, yeah, I love this. The last thing that I'm going to mention is the notifications flag. So Fernita mentioned that you can email and you can fax from here, from ECM directly, and you can do it with or without a cover page. The system will try to send that out 3 times. On the 3rd time, if it fails, it will come back and it'll blink this notification button and it'll be red with this flag. So if you see notification flag blinking, just click on it. A box will pop up. If she clicks on it today, you can see that it's blank and it'll tell you what document failed so that you can retry it again. Also, if we're having a problem with ECM, that flag's going to blink. Open that up and please email our group, IV support, all one word, at falmerica.com. That is going to open up a ticket with the IV implementation group. So that's me, Fernita and myself and the rest of our team, and let us know that you're getting a notification from ECM. This is also your path if you have questions. So your implementer will give you a number and you can contact him or her for a few weeks. But we are all going to be on the road. So we could be training another pharmacy and you might need something right away and we can't get back to you right away. IV support at falmerica.com. In the subject, put your pharmacy and just maybe a quick note of what it is. And then in the body, tell us what's going on. And then one of us will get back to you. So again, you don't have to make that phone call. You can just email us directly and it'll open up a ticket and it'll even send you the incident number, just like when you call IT today. Those are the only 2 things I wanted to just add in.
Okay, no, that was perfect. Again, I think that will be all we'll cover on session 1. And I thank you for listening in to us. So tomorrow, session 2, they will go over, like Betty mentioned, how to push a patient, the criteria that's needed in 400 prior to pushing the patient over. We'll go over that and just how the framework and 400 profiles look side to side. So we'll go over that information on session 2. And thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Fernita.
Thank you.